There we are. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the International Institute of Humanology and Human Dialogues. I'm Jessica Lockhart, and I'm really happy to be the hostess of a new edition of Human Dialogues in which we approach human topics every month. As you know, the Institute organizes these events to discuss different human topics that you, our followers, choose. And the topic this month is none other than beliefs. Beliefs are a very important part of our lives and they affect us in everything we do. And today's human dialogue is going to focus on one aspect of beliefs that I think is really, really important and that many people are not really that aware of, and that is the importance of beliefs at work. So I want to introduce the speaker, the interviewee, the guest that's going to be joining me on stage in a few minutes because he is somebody with a lot to say, as you will see. Matthias Läubli, I hope I pronounced his last name properly, is a senior consultant with extensive hands-on business experience as human resource leader and business partner. He has a proven track record of success in organizational transformations, global mobility, mergers and acquisitions, restructuring, international recruitment, and providing trusted advisory to the C-suite in international organizations. Following his career in human resources, Matthias has become an expert in identifying and developing senior executives and high potentials. He has worked with clients from multiple industries, countries, and cultures. Matthias holds a master's degree in psychology and is a certified coach, and he currently serves as president of the International Coaching Federation in the Switzerland chapter, the ICF. So I am excited and happy to welcome Matthias on our little show, Human Dialogues. Matthias, please turn your microphone on and welcome.
Hello, good evening. Very pleased to be here.
Well, I am really, really, really happy to have you here because the topic we're going to be discussing is sometimes overlooked by many people in companies, I'm afraid. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think that a lot of leaders, company owners, company managers sometimes neglect to focus enough on beliefs?
It's a good question. I think so, to be honest. I mean, by the way, the title of the show already, I found it quite funny because the truth about beliefs, is it a belief or is it the truth? But you're coming back to your question. I mean, with regards to work, there are lots of beliefs about leadership, for example. What is good leadership is a big question mark. So employees might have different opinions about that. And already leaders might also have different beliefs, what they are supposed to do and what people expect from them. So it starts from assumptions and beliefs.
Yes, exactly. And that would be the first thing that we should clarify. So, if we're talking about beliefs in general, and we're talking about the business culture, would you say that there is like one set of beliefs that impermeates all business cultures in the world? Or would you say it's something national, maybe regional?
I would say certainly there are some cultural beliefs about, for example, what is expected from a leader, or what is also expected from people. What is a good employee, maybe? Maybe that could be an interesting topic to explore. What is a good employee is probably something quite different in, let's say, Japan or Spain or Switzerland. Or what is expected from somebody in a meeting? I mean, that's a big intercultural question mark. And there are certainly differences, but also when I
Hello, hello, hello. Sorry?
but also when I
I think we were having some interviews. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, but also when I think, for example, about the career development, when somebody starts a career, this person might have certain beliefs about how to enter a room or how to interact with somebody else, or when to challenge somebody else. And for example, that busyness or being very, very busy and friendly to everybody is what is expected from this person. And when they grow through the career, they will change probably their mind and have a different belief of what is expected. And there we enter into a very interesting landscape.
Mm-hmm. How? How is it interesting?
It's interesting because I believe we are talking about something which is often unspoken. So it's a little bit like an elephant in the room. And probably the solution is when people start thinking about their beliefs. So when they start thinking about how they think, then we enter into a really interesting conversation. And you know, in the ICF world, but also in general, we are talking about limiting beliefs. We are talking about taking assumptions. We are talking about values, and when we dig very deep, sometimes we have certain values which are very, very deep, or certain even voices. So like unspoken principles that need to be complied with.
And that leads me to the next question that I want to ask you. How do beliefs limit us at work? Because if we have what you just said, all these very ingrained beliefs, they must act like a barrier to our viewing the world in a more open way, right?
Yeah, when I hear your question about the limiting beliefs, so the one of the most difficult pieces is letting go of old behaviors that have served us very well. And what makes it so difficult is actually that these beliefs are very firmly taken because they served us well. So these assumptions are very deep, and it's difficult to stop something that has helped us in the past, or that has had a value in the past. So to let go and adopt something totally new takes a lot of courage, and then a new belief develops, maybe emerges even.
Yeah, see, we at the Institute of Humanology usually explain that beliefs can't just be erased. You know, you can't just say, okay, I'm not going to believe that anymore. Full stop. That's it. La la la. No, you need another belief to replace the old one. You need
Yeah.
something that will somehow guide you. So when we want to change beliefs, we usually explain that we have to identify the belief, we have to question it, and then we have to replace it. And when you're working in a group of people, in a company or with a team, there's multiple, sometimes contradictory beliefs. So who's the one who needs to change beliefs? How do we handle that in a group situation, Matthias? How would you recommend that people go about that? Because as you said, some people have very strong beliefs, and it's hard to help them see something different. So, what do you think is perhaps a good strategy that could help in groups, companies, or teams to do something like this when very strong beliefs are held by different people?
So I believe that comes back to change management and transition management. So the first thing probably is that there is a conversation about what is it actually that's holding us back, maybe, or that we believe about ourselves, or that we believe about our company. And sometimes it's really like a golden rule which is continued over a long period of time. And when we see, for example, companies with a long successful track record, it's really hard for the employees to let it go and start something new. And I believe we are starting about talking about probably anxiety and fears also. So that there are fears of letting go these beliefs. I believe that's what you said before, and there is really the need to replace them with something new. And they are ingrained or embedded in strong emotions. So that's the next topic. It's not just a belief like somewhere in the sky. It's a very strongly held belief. And what makes it so strong? It's emotional.
Yeah, because when you have a belief, it's like you see the world through the lenses of that belief. If I
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
something simple, that everybody's evil, I'll look at people and I'll see evil people, you know,
Yeah.
very simple, silly example. But that's how we will see the world. So, how to go about that is the difficult part. There's a comment from our audience. They say
Yeah.
it needs attention and work. What do you believe? Is that so?
Yeah, I believe it needs attention and work. Yes, because where the attention goes, the energy goes also. And then only if we realize that there is maybe a conflicting belief, then we can actually discuss about it. And there, I believe it's also related to conflict sometimes. I mean, what is a conflict? Probably conflicting beliefs sometimes, about beliefs, what should happen, what needs to happen, what has to be, but it doesn't happen. And then it's all of a sudden it comes to the surface.
Okay, so at the end of the day, everything is about beliefs.
It's maybe a bit too strong, right?
So, how can therefore a leader use beliefs to enhance production or commitment in teams? Because if the leader holds strong beliefs, can those beliefs be somehow disseminated amongst the rest of the team?
Yes, I think so. For example, I mean, if let's start with the leader, maybe. I mean, there's a ripple effect through the organization, and let's start with the leader. So if the leader believes, for example, his or her employees have a lot of potential to do this, or has a growth mindset or a fixed mindset belief, for example, it makes a big difference. So let's say a leader has, for example, a very strong belief there needs to be a command and control culture. I need to follow up. I need to manage. I need to see everything. Is it done? Is it not done? And starts with a big spreadsheet controlling everything. Then it, of course, it has a big impact. And
Is it the leader's job? Is it the leader's job to somehow help people question and change their beliefs?
I think so, yeah. It's absolutely a leader's job. So if a leader doesn't question or challenge anything, it becomes very, very difficult. But I believe one of the most important things is also to challenge his or her own assumptions and challenge his or her own beliefs. And there we come to listening to others and having the ability to change perspective, maybe to look at oneself, at one's own beliefs, and from time to time have an aha moment. So.
And would you say that it's important for most employees in a company to share the same belief system? Or is it better when many people have different beliefs in one single company? What would you say is the healthiest of the two?
So that's my personal opinion. To be honest, my opinion is actually that diversity of beliefs is very healthy. So I'm a big fan of intercultural diversity, for example, because it's so enriching. But of course, if there are companies where people are very similar and have a very streamlined opinion about the world and what makes them successful, which sometimes is also okay. I mean, it depends a little bit on the product, the services, and the clients you have. But my personal opinion is different beliefs are very, very healthy, and especially if you are able to talk about it.
Yeah, but when you work with companies, because you're a coach who works with companies and with leaders, do you measure these things? Do you somehow sit down with leaders and say, so, what kind of beliefs does your company have or your employees?
Yeah, I mean, we do that. Yeah, for example, with regards to intercultural differences, when it comes to a direct style or indirect conflict behavioral style, or when it comes even to time perception, whether it's linear or whether it's a circle, then we can make it visible, different beliefs, and people really have like, oh, wow, that's why sometimes it was difficult and now I can see it. So that's really helpful. And I mean, you live in Spain at the moment, you were in Switzerland before, and it's probably helpful to just have this conversation about what do we believe about each other, what do we believe is right, and how should things work.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted your personal and professional opinion, because for those who are watching us and who will be watching us later, beliefs is a topic that a lot of people are discussing today, but was not mentioned 15, 20, 25 years ago. It was like this blurry concept that nobody really cared about. And today is the buzz of most companies, because I think that leaders have realized that beliefs play a fundamental role in guiding people. And they need to understand them and they need to manage them if they want to be successful and productive. So I think it's important to discuss these topics at a company level, but also at a level that is outside companies, but about companies. I mean, for normal, regular people, who are not leaders, who are maybe employees, it's also important to understand that we all have beliefs. Even bosses and leaders have beliefs, and they guide us. And it's important to see how some of those beliefs could lead to conflict. You mentioned the word conflict a few times already.
Yeah.
And in many occasions, conflict is caused by a difference in opinion. And the stronger the opinions, the harder it might be to resolve the conflict. Do you agree?
Might be the case, yeah. The stronger the opinion, yeah. Might be the case, but not necessarily. I believe it's also a readiness to open up and the readiness to listen and understand and be interested in a different opinion. I believe it comes also more towards that angle. So am I really curious to understand the other person or not? Do I want to look at the world through the glasses of my vis-a-vis, or am I convinced that my opinion is self-sufficient and no need to listen to anybody else? So probably it's more
Which
there.
perhaps was much more common in the past, right? I mean, historically speaking, company owners used to be more direct in their managerial styles,
Yeah.
and they used to be the big boss. And now they're more open to communicating, questioning, to displaying curiosity, which is another important word. Do you think there's like a progression in this? Do you think that questioning beliefs and understanding beliefs is part of a process of change that leadership is undergoing?
It seems to be. If we, for example, let's imagine we are on the balcony and look at the leadership beliefs that have been there in the past. I mean, we came from a very almost like a mechanic understanding of management to now like a belief that self-organized organizations are absolutely the best of all the world. So there's a progress. And when it comes to beliefs about management and leadership, for me, it's also, I mean, it starts also with philosophy. It starts with a long history. And so for me, it's not only the last 15 or 20 years. It's more like a history of 2000 years.
Yes, totally agree with that. And where do you think this is leading? Do you think you can somehow foresee where we're going?
My personal feeling is that we come a little bit away from this total self-organization. So I see many companies at the moment that step back because the employees and many others, they want actually more direction, more orientation. But there was this belief that everybody has the big wish to be his or her own boss. And it seems not to be the case. So very interesting.
Yeah. Let me make a little pause here in our conversation to remind our watchers and viewers that they can post their questions and comments on YouTube Live, and we will transmit them and broadcast them so you can also answer them. Remember that this is an open conversation, a human dialogue. So going back to the topic, Matthias, we have been talking about beliefs at work, and we have been talking about beliefs that impact work. But beliefs are fundamentally personal in nature. Each person develops their own belief system based on their experiences and everything they lived before. And of course, each person's life is their own life and is completely different from person to person. So the belief systems, by definition, need to be different because we are not the same people. When you are working with leaders, have you identified any kind of pattern in the belief systems of certain managers or leaders? I mean, for example, have you realized that very structured managers and maybe micromanagers tend to have a certain set of beliefs, and other more democratic type of managers have a different set of beliefs?
Yes, absolutely. It starts already with the belief about themselves. So, for example, do I have trust in myself? So, do I believe I'm able to do it? Do I believe I can manage it? Or do I believe I need to hold very closely and tight? And do I have the belief, for example, that I have a good relationship with somebody else? Or what's the type of relation? I mean, again, we are talking about beliefs. It's almost all over the place.
Yeah, it's always everywhere. So
Yeah.
what would you honestly tell a leader or manager to do about his or her own beliefs? I mean, you said people have to question their own beliefs. You said that before. You know, leaders
Yes,
have to question
yes,
themselves too.
yeah, yeah.
How would you tell them to start doing that? Do they just sit down and start thinking, what are my beliefs?
Yeah. It's very hard to do that alone. So I would suggest they have a conversation with somebody else, can be a person of trust, trusted advisor, for example. And then the first step is probably self-awareness. So to identify some core beliefs, which are deeply embedded, and to ask themselves, do they serve me well? Do they serve me well also in the next role? Are they holding me back maybe? And there are certainly beliefs which are really valuable and others which tend to be limiting. And then we
Yeah.
enter
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. We
and
enter.
we enter a really interesting conversation there, because sometimes it's only one belief which is holding them so much back. For example, about delegation. If somebody has the belief that it's a burden for somebody else if I delegate it to somebody else, so it's always with a hesitation that I give somebody else the work or give somebody else the ownership for a task. If I believe that for you it's a burden,
Yeah.
it might really hold me back. And already to identify this belief and talk about it and replace it with a different belief, that it can be like a trust, or that it can be almost like a gift from your perspective, that your leader trusts you and gives you this responsibility, might have a big impact.
And it's funny because what is a limiting belief for a person might be a really empowering one for another person. The same belief could be very positive for somebody and quite limiting for somebody else. And that's why I think we can never clearly say, don't believe this and believe that. It's every case is different, and every belief and every person is different. And that's why it makes it so tricky, right?
Probably it's about the fit with the culture of the company, for example, or the fit with the situation where the team is in. And if this belief is, how should I explain it? So if this belief is a good match with the cultural situation, then it's good. But if we have, for example, a company which is in a situation of turnaround, then the belief that you can give a lot of freedom to these people is probably not very healthy for the company.
Whereas in a different company, that's exactly and precisely what they might need.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
So it depends on the
So,
situation. Mm.
so do leaders and managers always need coaches to help them understand these and many other beliefs?
My answer is of course yes, because it's a bit marketing. But in the end, I mean, also a trusted friend can play this role and help them and give them feedback or ask a nasty question sometimes, which makes them think. So what is needed is an environment that helps them think deeply, and somebody who is a good listener and asks some good question and challenge sometimes back. Can be a coach, of course.
Yeah. One of the good things about coaches is that we are trained to do that, and to somehow we have a process for helping people do that, and that sometimes comes in handy. But that's a belief as well.
Yeah, and there again, I mean, is it a belief? Is it still a belief when it's scientifically proved, or is there like a border?
Well, That would be a very interesting human dialogue for another topic, but I think there have been scientific proofs that have been proven wrong in time. So I don't know how far we can go into
Uh,
science to say
uh,
this is the definite final
uh,
truth, right?
that's a good question. So is there a belief which is a better belief than another belief, or is it a more scientific belief? I mean, but in the end, we need to trust science in the end. Otherwise, we go back to middle age.
Yeah, yeah. And we have to set limits, and those limits are, of course, also somehow
Uh,
supported by beliefs. So at the end, I think it's also a matter of asking ourselves, does this help me or support me, or does it not? And then
mhm,
take it from there, because what could be positive for somebody, as we said before, could be very
mhm,
negative for somebody else. And let me go to one topic that I
mhm,
wanted to mention that has to do with training. Okay,
mhm,
everyone in a company is trained, was trained, or will be trained.
mhm.
And there's a lot of beliefs around training as well,
Yeah.
mhm, that I think should also be questioned and clarified. Because a lot of people, for example, believe I trained enough. I'm
Mhm,
well trained. I
mhm,
don't need any more training. Whereas there's others who really vouch for ongoing constant training and they
mhm.
would never accept anything else. How would you approach this kind of belief at work?
Yeah. To start with, my personal belief is that it's continuous learning. Again,
Hmm.
it's my personal belief. Why is this belief? I mean, we are seeing a demographic shift and a working population which is aging. So, and we see people who need to constantly adapt to a changing environment.
Hmm.
And if we want to help them, it's probably helpful if useful if we allow them to train themselves continuously. And yeah, I've not seen many people those who don't take a lot of training anymore or believe that they know everything. There comes the moment when it's really hard for them. So I have not seen that this concept is useful for them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I had
Yeah. And
I
I
had
would
a
say that happens in
I had this
most professions. Look at doctors, or look at coaches, or look at, yeah,
in any profession. I mean, we
managers.
we see even transitions from one industry to another, or totally different jobs, and this continuous adaptation is so important. And I had this discussion also with somebody who was 60, and he said, I don't need to develop anymore. But hey, this gentleman has again has 30 years in front of him. So why not develop anymore? He still has 30 years to
Um,
go.
Maybe because they don't think they have to continue training for work, but life also needs training.
Life continues, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But it
yeah.
was really a firmly held belief. So I'm
Mhm.
done. I end 4 years to go. So that's fine for me.
It's funny. We at the Institute of Humanology always explained that human beings have five basic human needs. We're not talking about Maslow's pyramid. We're
Mhm,
talking about other more human, maybe uh, emotional needs. We say that every person needs a certain sense of security. We
mhm,
need physical, economic
mhm,
security, all
mhm,
kinds of security. We all need a certain sense of adventure, a
mhm,
certain mystery, a certain
mhm,
interest and curiosity to
mhm,
be surprised. We all need love. We need to love and feel loved, and
mhm,
love can come in all shapes and forms, and it varies from age to age. When you're a kid,
mhm,
you need some kind of love. When you're 80, you might need something different.
mhm,
Then there is another need that a lot of people neglect to fulfill, which is the need to contribution. You
mhm,
know, we all need to feel like what we do matters, what
mhm,
we do helps somebody else. We need to feel that we are contributing to others.
Mhm.
And the last one, and this is the one that I wanted to mention, is we all need a certain growth in life at all times in our lives. When people stop feeling that they need to grow, they usually die. They
It's the
either
beginning of
have,
the end. Huh?
yes, they either have a mental illness, or they have a stroke, or they just literally
Mhm.
start dying.
Mhm.
So I think that this training that you were talking about is related to that need that we all have to continue growing at all times in life.
So it's like an innate curiosity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the
I
moment you
can,
lose it, it's like you turn the switch off,
yeah,
and
I
then
can see that. I can see that. And with regards to your question, just one thing that came to my mind in companies. Some people have the impression that the training will be useless. So like an assumption, almost like a pre-gone, like a foregone conclusion. And of course, the training will also be useless because they believe it so strongly. And if we talk about this belief, I mean, every meeting is as useful as you make it.
yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe it's going to be a piece of crap, you turn it into a piece of crap, and you're not even aware that you're doing it.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
it, and let's say if I have the belief that every meeting is an opportunity for me to contribute or make something meaningful out of it, I enter differently with a different energy into the meeting. And
Yes.
that's for me a belief which is not limiting, on the contrary, which is useful because it will turn into a virtuous cycle.
Mm-hmm. Going back to more practical tips and ideas,
Mhm.
Matthias, because we always want people who watch our shows to take something with them, you know? I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
The first one is going back to training, but more to the theoretical training that people get in universities and in professional vocational training. Is there anything that could be taught at that level that could help people handle and manage their beliefs later in life better in their professional lives? Do you think somehow beliefs should be part of the curriculum?
Yes, yes, I believe that. There are a few things that are really helpful for later in life. And there are some basic things also. For example, learn how to learn.
Mhm.
And this growth mindset that I mentioned before, I really believe in that. So beliefs, for example, I had this belief that I had about myself that I'm bad in language, which turned out, I mean, I'm not totally fluent, but it's a wrong
Come on,
belief.
you're Swiss. You can't be
Exactly,
bad at
exactly.
languages if you're Swiss.
But
Another
it's a wrong
belief.
belief. It's a wrong belief.
Uh-huh.
And I
Yeah.
had many beliefs like that.
I hear your beautiful English, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out to be
Okay.
wrong. It turned out to be wrong. And there are more examples
And
like that.
and how was the process? I mean, here we have a very clear example. You used to believe you were bad at languages. Now you don't believe it anymore. What happened? What made you change your mind?
What may change my, it was an exposure to reality. So I went into a French speaking part of Switzerland, and my belief was I will understand maximum 30%, so I will be totally lost. I will really fail completely. And to my big surprise, actually I understood more than I expected, which motivated me. And so I worked hard, of course, and I improved my language skills. Of course, it was like a mix, but I believed I can do that. I can do that, which was half of the journey.
Of course, because once you believe, you make it happen. Again, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so that was about training. The second question that I have, practical question. Okay, I'm a manager.
Yeah.
I'm a manager, and I have this employee who is really, really stubborn on his or her beliefs. What do I do?
Yeah, well,
Imagine, I don't know, precisely.
yeah.
You know, you have an employee who says, I'm lousy at languages, and he's the only person who's got the qualifications to go to the French-speaking part of Switzerland to teach them how to use the machine you created. what do you do?
So you have a very practical example here. You need this guy to go there.
Yes, you need the guy to go there, and he believes he's totally lousy at French. How can you somehow, as a manager, sit down with this person and help him handle that limiting belief?
It's probably a little bit, I mean, one step back. What is the relationship between them? How trustful is it? What's the quality of conversation they can have together? And then it's a matter of the right question, listening carefully,
Okay.
and also asking about other solutions. But you want to have two things, I hear. On the one hand, you want to have this practical thing resolved, and on the other hand, you would like to mobilize and inspire and motivate this employee to learn the language. That's what I understand, which are two separate things. I mean, you can't try to combine them, but on the one hand, you want this practical solution. On the other hand, you are talking about people development.
Yeah. So would you decide yourself as a manager? Would you ask the employee which one should be the focus? What would you do?
I would talk with the employee and ask also and challenge probably back that he is not good in language because if this employee goes to the French speaking part, normally people learn very, very fast. And there comes some storytelling and sales skills into play. I mean, we can sell these also very nicely and mention the benefits and the long-term perspective and what's in for you and so on and so on. And maybe also ask about potential obstacles. What's holding you back? What could be the worst case? What could be the best case? What if? What else? What is possible? How can we support you? So there are lots of things we can do.
But that's great because you just gave people some tips that they can start working on, which is exactly what we asked for. there is a comment from one of our viewers who says, I feel an ability to reflect on personal experiences allows us to enhance self-awareness, which in turn allows us to see with more clarity, including what we believe and what serves us. This is a comment. I don't think there's a question there. So any comment on the comment? Any comments on the comment? Matthias, would you like to say something about that?
I believe there's some truth in it. So if you can look at your own belief from left, from right, from top, from bottom, that's really helpful. And then you can also, this gives you an option, this gives you a choice. And then you can work with it and, as you said, replace it or twist it a little bit differently. Sometimes it's, if you verbalize a belief and you change one word in the belief, it makes such a big difference. As I mentioned before, this example of the delegation. So if I say I get things done through others, or if I say I empower others and enable them to grow and perform and be the best version of themselves, it's a totally different narrative.
Yes. And it results in a completely different reality.
Yeah.
Because at the end, words matter. And words are also related to beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like a landscape where
Yeah.
you move yourself, and there you have some anchors and buildings, and sometimes big buildings which are difficult to move away.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we covered a lot of ideas, a lot of subtopics within the topic of beliefs at work. Matthias, I want to thank you very much for giving us your time and your wisdom and for sharing so many stories and so much knowledge with our viewers. I am sure they will all be inspired. I'm sure they'll come back to listen to the stories again, and they will.
I hope so. I hope so that they will all go to the French-speaking part of Switzerland.
That'd be a very funny result if there's this influx of people going to the French-speaking part of Switzerland within the coming months. We know who is to be blamed. Well, Matthias, I really had a great time. It was really, really interesting. I hope that you will join us for other events in the Institute of Humanology in the future, because it was really inspiring and really enlightening. Thank you very much for being here
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for having me.
And for those of you who are following us and who are interested in everything we do at the Institute, which is, as you know, very much, let me remind you that our next human dialogue will happen next year. Yeah, next year in January, we're going to be focusing on another topic, as you know. The topic in January is going to be speak without fear. And we're going to be very lucky to have a wonderful, wonderful speaker who's going to be discussing how to speak up. So join us next January 10th for a new edition of Human Dialogues. I'm Jessica Lockhart. This is the International Institute of Humanology, Human Dialogues. Thank you for being here. See you next time.